to the 9/11 War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com.
Welcome to the 9/11 War Room. My name is Gene.
My name is Sandra. Today's Sunday, March the 1st, and it's episode 224.
I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the Epstein files, only because they still relate to 9/11, but there is some corporate level news before we get to that. From the New York Times, war court prosecutor asks panel to overturn the torture finding in the 9/11 case. New York Times is behind a paywall. You can go to removepaywall.com and put in that address and you'll be able to see it. But I did find Law Dragon also is reporting on the story, so I'll just talk about it here. It says basically the prosecutors are trying to overturn the fact that, which one of them is, Josh might have to help me out here, I forgot, Bellucci, whether or not his testimonies can be admitted to the court. They're trying to fight that, yes, they can. Well, as of, what was it? Let's see. The next session scheduled for 1 week beginning March 23rd may include witness testimony. Shrama has ruled that al-Bellucci's pretrial proceedings will remain on hold until the CMCR rules on the government suppression appeal, which could take several months. So they were trying to fight to say, yeah, we want to hear his testimony, but it's still like, hold up. They're going to make their decision in writing, and that may take weeks or months before we get an answer on that. That's really all I had to say on that, unless you wanted to add anything else, Joshua, if you were aware of that story.
I wasn't aware of it. Thank you for pointing it out.
Aye, aye. So that saga continues, and that involves also many of the other folks in there, included the one other gentleman who was Ramzi bin al-Shib. They had said that he was dismissed because he was mentally incompetent, and there was a fight to try to say, no, now he's better, he can do it. But evidently here it says the fifth defendant, Ramzi, blah, 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 remains severed from the case after McCall found him to be mentally incompetent. So that's where that stands. So that's where we are.
Wasn't he incompetent because of the abuse?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Crazy. So that's that story. That was really all the big story for corporate level news. The rest is kind of fluff. So there is a movie going to come out called Boatlift 9/11. It's the story of a woman and her daughter that were working on a tugboat in New York Harbor when the 9/11 happened, and they went down to Battery Park to try to help people. And next thing you know, there was a call that any boat or anything there that can get people off of the lower part of the island to get them out. So they had basically saved 500,000 people, getting them out off the lower Manhattan. So that's going to be a movie coming out pretty soon. So keep your eye on that. It's called Boatlift 9/11.
A cool story.
Yeah. You can see it at boatlift911.com. And over 500,000 rescued by sea on 9/11. New film Boatlift to honor largest maritime evacuation in U.S. history. I'll put all these articles in the show notes. The next fluff piece I have, if Ross is on, this will be right down his alley.
No,
he's not.
No.
The new Two World Trade Center will rise 1,226 feet over Manhattan, financially completing the finally, yeah, thank you, and financially completing the post 9/11 rebuild. It says here the last major commercial tower on the site, Two World Trade Center, is expected to break ground in spring of 2026 and wrap up construction by 2031. Based on recently released renderings, is a broad rectangular tower sheathed in glass with 3 open-air terraces and 6 landscaped corner gardens woven into the facade to bring some greenery to otherwise a sleek profile, which that's right down Ross's alley. So that might be of interest to him. The tower will rise to 1,226 feet, comfortably placing it in the super tall category and making it roughly the 11th tallest building in the United States. It won't overtake its famous neighbor, though. One World Trade Center still holds the title of the country's tallest at a symbolically chosen 1,776 feet. 1,776 feet. And that's about it for that one. So, yeah. We'll be looking forward to that. Also, interesting, Silverstein Properties, the development firm that has overseen much of the site's post 9/11 transformation, is once again at the helm. So Larry's still making money off of everything happened down there, tragically. That's that news story. Now we get back into the Epstein files, and I'll try to blow through this pretty quick. And again, the only reason I do that is because this ties to 9/11. I just made this through AI, just basically saying there's a reason a lot of people didn't talk on 9/11. This guy was in his heyday. This is a fake picture I just created with AI. But I asked Brock, and Sandra helped me, and I pulled some names too. The list of 10 people with 2 degrees of separation to 9/11 World Trade Center via Epstein-Maxwell ties based on files, emails, testimony, and recent discussions. Here's 10 people. I'm not going to read through the description, but the people: Howard Lutnick, Ghislaine Maxwell, Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, George Mitchell. He was a former senator and on the 9/11 Commission. He was the 9/11 Commission vice chair. Philip Zelikow, Richard Berman, a judge, Jeffrey Berman, the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, Bill Barr, former U.S. Attorney General, Bob Kerrey, former senator and 9/11 Commission vice chair, and Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's defense lawyer, and he was also representative of the Dancing Israelis. He was the lawyer for the Dancing Israelis and got them out of the country. So, yeah, all these 10 people, there's many more, but 10 people that were 2 degrees of separation.
Well, they were all basically mentioned in the Epstein files, and they all have more or less direct ties to 9/11.
And I just want to mention quickly some of the things that made them tied to it. And one that I keep on harping on, and I'm going to continue to harp on, is Howard Lutnick.
Oh, with good reason, yeah.
Yes. Howard said that he was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, which occupied the 101st to 105th floor of the World Trade Center 1. He says in 2005, he bought in 1998, he bought the mansion next to Epstein. And in 2005, he moved in. Once he went in and talked to Epstein, he said he no longer had any interest or did any work with Epstein. Well, last week, this picture was found and came out. And hey, look at that. There's Howard Lutnick on Epstein Island with Epstein.
Right. We already had the emails that confirmed that he was looking to spend time on Epstein's Island with his own family, his kids and whatnot.
Yep.
But this picture just came out in the last week. Yeah.
And there it is, solid. I think this is Kyle, his son. So there he's taking his kids to go visit Epstein. So what other dirty stuff do we have on Epstein or Lutnick? He last week the State of Union address came in, and here's just him taking the floor. After all this coming out, him just being a blatant liar. He's a little uncomfortable trying to find somebody that'll shake his hand. Chuck Schumer will shake his hand. There's Justice Roberts says hi and then just looks away. No, I don't want to really talk to you. And some other guy that met him. That was about it. So yeah, Howard Lutnick, pretty slimy guy. This was a clip I just want to share. Patty Casazza, one of the Jersey widows, TAP had her on for a really lengthy call. I asked her about if she's pressed Howard Lutnick, and this is just a quick what she said in response to that question. I mean, everybody in this room, I think, can agree. We all agree fire did not cause what happened in those buildings. No. And the largest degree of who was responsible for that was NIST. And I just wanted to share with you, I don't know if you're aware of this, NIST is overseen by the Department of Commerce. And right now, Howard Lutnick sits as the Secretary of Commerce of that. So
I have tried to get a hold of him,
still not there.
And we have not.
It's just, I know he was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. I'm sure that's why you're talking already, because he's largely responsible for a lot of this cover up. If you could speak about Howard Lutnick. Have you had any conversations with him, and have you pressed him?
No, I have talked to his sister. She works I don't know if she works at Cantor or she has some, auxiliary, thing that she does. She does a lot with the charity for that. And I contacted her, about this, what's going on. And I've talked to her, about other things that are affecting 9/11 families directly. And had an hour-long Zoom call with her, blah, blah, blah. We'd really like Howard's support, yada, yada. Well, crickets is what I got.
Oh, wow.
And I've done repeated calls. I haven't gotten through. Now they're screening, I'm sure. And that's a disappointment. I mean, Howard eventually did the right things by Cantor Fitzgerald families. I told you he cut off checks on and insurance on 9/15. And I met with him down there. I was so upset. I was like, my husband worked so hard for you. And he was like, well, it's my company. I'm going to lose. I said, you are going to lose this company if you don't do the right thing. I said, because people are coming to us and asking questions like, oh, is Howard doing the right thing for you? I said, you will lose this company. I said, if you do the right things, you'll get Untold support. And that's kind of who my husband was too. He always said, you do for people, not that it's going to come back to you, but it generally does. If you do the right things, it comes back to you tenfold. He honestly believed that. And it did happen for Howard. Howard's company is doing extraordinarily well. He just doesn't see fit to go anywhere else with that.
He alone holds the keys for releasing NIST's building models and data. To this day, NIST will not release their building models and data of what they have on Building 7 and probably 1 and 2. He could do that with the sign of a pen, and he won't do that. He lost 658 employees, including his brother Gary. It's just shocking.
It's mind-blowing, mind-blowing. I couldn't imagine. Even if I had just battled with a brother of mine, I'd be like,
Right. Again, I'm sorry for your loss, and thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and he hasn't done the right thing because he now, as Secretary of Commerce, you've heard me say this several times, sits in position of overseeing NIST where he could release the Building 7 models and data, and he has not done that. So Howard just continues to unimpress everybody. Here is a picture of Howard Lutnick with his brother Gary, who was allegedly lost on 9/11.
That's where we are. We're now at allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. He might be with Epstein somewhere hanging out. And this is his sister, Edie. Interesting fact about Edie. Edie was a founding citizen with Ghislaine Maxwell on a project called Terramar. What is Terramar? The Terramar Project was a self-described environmental nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2012 in the U.S. by former socialite Ghislaine Maxwell. Terramar announced its closure in July 2019, shortly after New York federal prosecutors arrested Maxwell's longtime partner, Jeffrey Epstein, and Terramar was officially dissolved in December 2019. They focused on the 64% of the ocean that lies outside of any single country's jurisdiction. Why would you do that? Their mission was to create a global ocean community, sounds good, based around the idea of a shared ownership of the global commons, also known as the high seas or international waters. Now, why would you? Well, let me just share a little bit more before I say anything. Here is luckily the internet never forgets. Wayback Machine shows Terramar Project's old website, and you can go down the bottom and it shows they're supporting citizens or citizen founders. And one of the citizen founders is Edie Lutnick. So she was a part of the initial inception of this organization. Found out that Ghislaine Maxwell actually did a TED Talk about it. And I only have to show the first 13 seconds for you to realize how creepy this project was. Here we go.
I noticed that my speech today was leveraging technology to create a global ocean community. I'm going to change that on you, and I'm going to leverage technology to create a new country.
Wants to create a new country in international waters with nobody else's jurisdiction, and you're a sex trafficker, child sex trafficker. Wonder what could happen there,
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So yeah, this is all again, Edie Lutnick, brother with Howard Lutnick. What else creepy does Howard Lutnick have ties with people around 9/11? Well, here's Howard Lutnick in several pictures, very close with Sarah Ferguson, Prince Fergie. Prince Fergie was given 101st floor of the 101st to 105th floors of Cantor Fitzgerald for her charity. He gave it to her for free. She didn't have to pay anything. Well, what just come out recently about Sarah Ferguson? Says here, Maxwell and Sarah Ferguson, a royal family member, host events called La Dolce Vita parties. We talked about this last week. I just want to repeat it, where high-profile celebrities and executives contribute large donations to attend. Their donations are linked to causes involving children. Lutnick made huge donations to these events. What else happened with Sarah Ferguson? Her charity shuts down after being linked to missing Romanian kids in a logbook that's been found. Just want to read you some revelations from the Epstein files about Sarah Ferguson. In one 2009 exchange, just weeks after Epstein was released from prison for prostituting a minor, Ferguson thanks him for being, quote, the brother I've always wished for. In a 2010 email, an account linked to Ferguson tells Epstein, quote, I'm at your service, just marry me, followed by asking when he plans to employ her. While Epstein was incarcerated, Ferguson allegedly sought his commercial advice on how to launch a company called Mother's Army, showing a sickening willingness to use a convicted sex offender as a business strategist for a humanitarian venture. Documents suggest Epstein... Oop, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Just getting some feedback. There we go. Documents suggest Epstein claimed to have bankrolled Ferguson for 15 years, helping with massive debts and rent payments, effectively keeping her in a state of financial servitude. And lastly, then the most just bothersome, 2011 email where Ferguson congratulates Epstein on the birth of a baby boy. News she claimed she heard from Duke Prince Andrew, who she was married to, and we've heard a bunch about him. This has reignited survivors' claims about Epstein's obsession with selective breeding at Zorro Ranch and alleged baby farms. So just really some sketchiness going on with these people.
I just wanted to add quickly, and part of the reason we're starting to say alleged for Gary's death is because Edie Lutnick also, by some sheer coincidence, had an appointment that prevented her from being at work on September the 11th in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like they got the call, they got the heads up, the warning, and maybe it would have just been too suspicious to have three of the Lutnicks all accidentally not show up for work, or conveniently, I should say, and avoid this fate. So maybe there was reason to fake Gary's death and said, okay, you two, you guys just don't come in, and Gary, well, we'll say that you disappeared. Well, you died in the tower's collapse or in the impact. So yeah, I mean, at this point, anything's possible. It's you end up questioning a bunch of things that you as skeptical as we are, and as much as we try to question things, there are things that we think we can universally agree on, and then turns out that maybe not even that. So
and again, the only reason I'm still harping on the Epstein files is this is, again, when Epstein was in his heyday of blackmail, and everyone says, well, somebody would have talked. When you have all these people at the top not in control of things, it makes you wonder. So where does that bring us to? It would be really nice to tie 9/11 to these Epstein files, wouldn't it? Well, we might have a break in that case. Just play the clip. We've been talking about Ian Carroll. He's working with the Web.io. That's an AI that allows, they have all 3 million Epstein documents up there that basically this would be the brain, and you can work purely with the files without the influence of like Wikipedia trying to give you the official story and whatnot.
It's closed circuit, so it doesn't get influenced by all the other outside search engines and all the official story stuff.
So we had a private conversation with Ian Carroll. Just my memes finally got through to somebody on the team, and he shared it and says, hey, we'd like to talk to you guys. So we did have a great conversation. And this was the show after that meeting, just waiting for Ian to say something. And this is what he had to say. 36 seconds.
I cannot wait, dude. I cannot wait. We were talking to, let's just say, some experts in 9/11 today about making the 9/11 document sets complete and public. Oh, God, I can't. I'm going to give away too much shit. It's going to be awesome.
So he cut himself short there. He doesn't want to He doesn't want to say too much because I'm sure he'll make a whole episode about it. But the idea is, some of you are familiar with the work of Justin. Oh, wait, let me stop my share. There we go. The 9/11 data sets, Justin Keogh had worked on it. And there's a ton of other files, not just what the 9/11 data sets and Justin Keogh, the terabytes of information there, but any bit of great amount of work that can be put into this brain so that now we can ask in whole, what do we have here? Show me the links, show me where the files, resources are, quote sources, and it won't be impacted by anything that Wikipedia or the United States government would have to say. So this is a fantastic project that Ian's willing to take on and his teammates. So we're very much looking forward to that. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of questions about that. And we're just going to take it step by step. Whoops, sorry.
Oh, and as we mentioned last week, I think it was Ian Carroll is a confirmed speaker at the 25th anniversary in New York. So we're really looking forward to that. He's just kicked butt in the last 3 years, and he's got the ear of that whole younger generation, something we desperately need and want. And I think we can say that we want to kind of have at least part of that focus on the 25th anniversary geared towards the younger generation and get new people on board and speak a language that they speak. Maybe that's badly said, but
Now we go to videotape.
connect with the younger generation. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It is 5:20, and let me share something real quick. This is the time when I do just a daily prayer. For those that don't know, this is the time when World Trade Center 7 fell. For the past, I think, 4 years, every day I set my alarm at 5:20 so that I just say a prayer for justice. I don't make any apology. I'm a Christian, and I'm not trying to thump on anybody here or try to convert you, but I'm going to say a prayer. I've now recreated the meme because it used to be just I want to send a positive vibe, but I've been going to church again the past 3 weeks. So I added a little bit to it, and it's the Lord's Prayer part of it, and I just added a sentence to that. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to pray that prayer, and we'll move on. So, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And grant truth and justice for those lost on September 11th. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Gene.
All right. And again, I don't typically go praying from the side streets. It just so happens I do this every day, and it happens at 5:20 happens when we're doing the war room. So
Yeah, we were doing this before the war room started, and then it was like Sundays. Oh, well, what do we do when 5:20 hits? And Gene's like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway.
So
I don't know if you all remember that really cute joke about the kid in church who interprets it as Howard be thy name.
No.
Oh
boy.
my gosh.
No, that's funny. Just a couple other things to mention before we open up the table. We talked about this email and wondering who this Berman was that was mentioned. There was a quote in the Epstein files. By the way, if anybody didn't know, EFTA and the naming of these files stands for the Epstein File Transparency Act. I didn't know that until last week, but there was a quote: if there was a grand jury on 9/11/01 and Epstein, then Berman knows they connect. Whole bunch of questions. Are they talking about Judge Berman or Jeffrey Berman and everything? I made a fun play on this, and some people still hated me for it, but I thought it was interesting. There's 6 redacted emails, and there just happened to be 6 people in the original game of Clue. So I basically lined them up. This Professor Plum had sent an original email that he had earlier sent to a Miss Scarlett, and then he sent it off to Mr. Green, and Mr. Green is at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. Well, Mr. Green at the U.S. Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York, sent it to 3 people: Colonel Mustard, Miss White, and Miss Peacock. And Miss White replied back to Miss Green and said, received, thank you. The big question is, who's Mr. Green? Who is this person at the U.S. Attorney's Office that got this information and said, I'm passing this on, and thought that it was important enough to pass on? So I just made it fun for people to be able to digest, and some people hated me again for it, but yeah,
Why?
you try to make it. I just try to make things digestible for, the click people that just like to click and scroll just to catch their attention. So I'll put that in there. You guys can see the original files and everything. What's really most interesting about this is 2 days after this initial email, the next day after the 6th of February, that is when there was a motion to dismiss the 9/11 grand jury by the Lawyers Committee. This is the next day, February 6th, February 7th. On behalf of Bill Barr, Jeffrey Berman, and the Department of Justice, they're looking to dismiss the plaintiff's complaint. Who are the plaintiffs? The Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry and Richard Gage, in regards to specifically, quote, the extensive scientific and eyewitness evidence that explosives were used to destroy the 3 buildings on 9/11. So that email exchange happens. The next day, there's a motion to dismiss the Lawyers Committee grand jury investigation. So. All right, where are we at? One last thing. It's great. AE 9/11 Truth is making some type of appearance. There's nothing on the website, but there is somebody who's manning their X account, started making some posts. They spoke out about there's this lady, I forgot her name, Jennifer King, I think is it. She's on Instagram. She mentioned she went over and found out about Lutnick living next door to Epstein at 9 and 11 East 71st Street. But she made a comment that I want to correct everybody on. We all ran with it. It says that not only did he get it for $10, but that the person that made the deed exchange was also the guy that recorded Tower 2 falling. And I find out that she said Gary Pollard is the guy's name that's on the title deed transfer. But we find out that the guy that did the recording of World Trade Center 2 collapsing was this Gary Pollard, and that the guy that did the transfer is this Gary Pollard. So it's not the same Gary Pollard. I just want to make everyone aware of that. 2 totally different Gary Pollards. No resemblance whatsoever. This guy looks more like Simon Garfunkel, probably Garfunkel.
Yeah, but if you remove his hair, though.
That's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
Boston 9/11 Truth this Thursday is going to have Sander Hicks on. Sander Hicks is a person of interest in the 9/11 Truth movement now because he has a lot of close ties to... Oh, why did it click off there? Let me see if I can go back. Yeah, there we go. Sander Hicks has ties with Mamdani, or at least in the past he's tried to. He says that he has not directly talked to him about 9/11, but the door is open. So we're hoping that Sander will be able to broach him with that subject. That's all I had for 9/11 news. Let's open up the table. I see a hand up. Let's go to Mikey. What do you got, Mikey?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
When you guys were talking about when you were talking about Ian Carroll and getting like people that speak the language that the younger people speak, I instantly thought of that guy that Chris had a interview with. Do you remember his name was Tyler Oliveira?
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be a good person to pull in because he's even younger than I am, and he has a lot of following on the interweb.
Isn't he British or Australian or something?
I can't speak to that. I don't know. I don't follow him, but every once in a while I'll be scrolling the internet and that interview with Chris will pop up and I'm like, I know that guy.
Yeah. I think I mean, if he is, I mean, there's a lot involved in the logistics. And if you have to haul someone in from, across the ocean, it's a different bracket of financial involvement also. So as much, I mean, I'm not saying that we wouldn't do it for someone who is worth it, but the funds have to be.
He might do it. He might just come just for the fuck of it, actually, because he's so young, and I'm sure he just wants to be involved in it.
And that's possible too. At the last conference, we had people who paid their way, and others who we're happy to have their flight or travel costs covered, or amenities, and very, very few actually asked for an honorarium. I'm not even sure if anyone did, but yeah, it's all stuff you have to consider when you plan these things. But we have a long list of people for an ideal case scenario. I'll add his name to the list.
I do want to point out Tyler recently he just posted this last week, his Patreon account, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, and they pulled his account. So that's troublesome, but
yeah.
Thank you, Mikey. Chuck.
Hey, so quick question. I have a couple. One, I have some questions, but one, a good job connecting Epstein and 9/11. I think that's a very worthwhile thing to do and to share at the War Room. Don't have any hesitation. I'm interested in this question of what's irrefutable evidence, and that's language I think Senator Johnson used in the invitation to the truth community to come to his committee or him at some point. So what qualifies as irrefutable evidence? And I guess it's an evidentiary kind of question I'm asking. And this question of evidence of, we're talking about evidence of malfeasance, right? Of a crime around 9/11. So my second kind of question is, what's the significance of the official report, 9/11 Commission report, being a big lie? So on its face, to people in the truth movement, and this is where we have consensus, the proposition is preposterous. So on that point, what's irrefutable? What irrefutably establishes that we're not out of our minds to insist that there's a big lie? So I guess I need help understanding answers to these questions. And my other one is the anomalies. Where do the anomalies fit in to an evidentiary review to establish irrefutably this big lie? Finally, did the New York Fire Department file reports on the fires, any of the fires, or did it all be turned over to FEMA to produce and contract with NIST and the contractors to produce the reports that were produced? So especially I'm interested to know if the fire department made findings about the source of the fires on the cars that melted. So these are just rhetorical questions, and if anybody has thoughts and reflections, I'd be delighted to hear.
I'll make an initial comment. Irrefutable evidence between a whole room of people is going to be very difficult to come to a consensus on. What I would say is that irrefutable evidence is we were lied to, and that fire did not cause the collapse of World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7. I think I'm safe in saying that everybody in the room would agree on that. As far as past that, we're all going to disagree on certain things, and that's not what I want to focus on. But if anybody wants to make further comments on that, they're welcome to. I also encourage anybody that wants to delve into that to any great degree, because I really don't want to get into the weeds. This is 9/11 news strategy and activism. Once you get into the weeds, it's really going to bog us down, and it becomes something that we're not coming here to agree on high-level issues. But anybody that has discussions like Boston 9/11 Truth or the TAP Talks, where you want to get into the weeds of that and tough it out on the threshing floor, as Mike puts it, go for it. And that's the place for that. But anybody wants to make a comment specific to that before I go to the next hand? Does anybody want to comment on what Chuck had to say?
Yeah, I do.
Hey,
Ross.
Ross, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think maybe I'm the only one in this room, or that I know in the movement, that was actually there in New York City on the day, saw it with their own eyes, not on the television. Easily for me, when I tell people on the street, when they ask me what's the irrefutable evidence, it's three things. It's first of all, it's all the video evidence that we have of multiple videos, all showing the same thing: a building blowing up. And then that is your eyes. And that's what I did see. And then you have all the other senses, your 5 senses, and they all indicate explosives. Okay, beyond the 5 senses, the other irrefutable evidence is that all the building's contents and their floors were sequentially blown up in 10 seconds. They cannot collapse and pancake in 10 seconds, the floors, and the contents of the building cannot be pulverized and or vaporized, wouldn't say pulverized, vaporized in 10 seconds. That's the other point of irrefutable evidence that everybody agrees on. The third point.
Not everybody in this room agrees on that, but I hear you. Go ahead. Okay.
All right. Well, they need to agree on that if it's going to be irrefutable. So, and then the last point is, what is the last point? The 10 seconds of the contents, video evidence, and I'm forgetting the last one right now because I got going too long. I'll remember it. You can go on if you want to, and then I'll pipe up real quick.
That works. Anybody else to Chuck want to respond to Chuck?
Maybe Jerry.
Yeah, Raul here. Hey, is Richard on the line?
He is.
Gage? Okay, well, Richard, you go first. I mean, we're the only two right now on the committee, on the PSI committee.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Defining what's irrefutable. That's the question at the table.
Well, I know what I believe to be irrefutable is the evidence that I give in my presentations that you've all heard. That's my contribution to the small group of people who have chosen to respond to Ron Johnson with a coordinated set of evidence. There is additional evidence beside the World Trade Center in there, and they have chosen to focus on that evidence, which includes hijackers and phone calls and other things, and airplane behaviors. I'm not going to speak to that. So I feel very comfortable, though, with the explosive destruction of the 3 World Trade Center skyscrapers in terms of the evidence that we've been putting out there for 20 years.
Yeah.
I also think for me, as the newest newcomer, I guess, and firefighter that is a part of this top tier organizational committee for Johnson, is the irrefutable stuff for me is the measurable stuff. So, for example, the seismic activity that was recorded before the collapse is evidence. That's like, to me, that's irrefutable. The temperatures that are in comparison on what can and cannot melt steel, the high temperatures that last for weeks. What is generating, what's the source of these high temperatures beyond jet fuel and office fuel loads? To me, that's irrefutable evidence. All the measurements from the video to almost near free fall and the horizontal explosive radius is irrefutable evidence. So things that we can measure in science, the reports that we're making, or the tests that they've been doing with the flight simulators, that's going to be irrefutable evidence. So basically what Richard says, and things that we can measure and see with measurements and science. That, I hope that answers your question. That's the general areas that we're focusing on. So
thank you. Who else wanted to speak to that?
Hope that helps, Chuck.
Yeah, thank you, Raul. Go ahead,
and I
Craig.
wanted to just say that's what I was trying to remember is what Raul just said, and that and also including the dust studies, the chemical dust studies are part of what Raul said, and that was what I was trying to remember. Okay.
Thank you, Ross. Go to Craig.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with this idea of irrefutable evidence because when you build a case for something, not every single little element of it is on its own irrefutable, or is it like a complete slam dunk? Each point proves the case 100% without any of the other points. It's the collection of points that make the case. And I'm very concerned about this irrefutable evidence phrase. Frankly, that came from Ron Johnson, and I'm not sure that we necessarily have to use his wording. We should be making our case in the best way that we can make it. I would also I would draw a distinction between irrefutable evidence and irrefutable proof. Evidence is not necessarily proof of the conclusion, but it is part of the picture. I would offer, for example, and I know this, that the kind of the people that are making these decisions are not interested, or don't seem to be interested in including anything about the Pentagon in their in fact, in their deliberations or whatever. But I would offer the idea that there's no holes in the C ring from the two titanium engines as irrefutable evidence that something didn't happen that they claim happened. So, but that's not, for some reason we don't consider that to be irrefutable, but we plain behavior, and as Richard said, phone calls and hijackers, which I think is all very valid to include. How much of the points made in those subjects would you say are irrefutable? I would say when you put it all together, the whole case is irrefutable. And I'm not sure that, even though Johnson's the one inviting the truth movement to do this, I don't necessarily think we have to take his term as being what we have to go by. Mm-hmm. We should build our case like any case is built.
Craig, I agree with you. I think that's his term that he used, and so we're using that term just as the term, and we don't have to. I think what would be more better, or at least would be the spirit of what we're trying to do, is the one that is most believable, the one that has the most either evidence or scientific evidence, or even just using our five senses, what you can see with your own eyes. That really is what is easier to believe, that would still fall factual without drawing concepts or hypotheses that don't have any reference behind it. That's all we're trying to do. I think that the stuff that you're saying about the Pentagon on the rings, those are legitimate questions, and I believe Richard can correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't ruled out that we're not including anything from the Pentagon, but part of the problem, and I said this before, there's such a lack of really clear video footage of the Pentagon, or even after the fact. That one is more guarded, that we just don't have a lot to go on in the time frame that we have. But we have lots of information, lots of video, lots of eyewitness testimony at Ground Zero with the time frame that we have, which is less than 6 months. And we have to go. This isn't the end-all document. It's not the end-all request. But I do feel if we make a strong case for Ground Zero, it implicates the rest of the events that happened that day. It's going to be impossible to complete a complete package. So your points are well taken, but we got to go with what is easier to convince the public.
I want to say hang on, because I don't want this to devolve into a debate over the Pentagon. Okay. But I do want to say, this is a very subjective question. Irrefutable evidence is like the irrefutable evidence is in the eye of the beholder. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everybody's going to disagree on what they believe is the irrefutable evidence. But
and nobody's going to give weak evidence. Nobody's running with weak. It doesn't matter what adjective you use. We all agree that we want to give the best and most convincing evidence that is going to resonate with people who are not as educated about 9/11 as we are. So
exactly, Sandra, well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank
you, sir.
That's no, really. That's that's what she said is really the time frame that we have, Craig.
Well, I understand what you're doing. And I was, when I made the comment about irrefutable, I wasn't necessarily saying you should include certain things in your deliberations. What I was saying there was how people define irrefutable. Is if people assume that just because we have TV coverage of the towers that that's irrefutable and other things aren't, I would challenge that. So that's all I meant. I understand you may choose that within the time you have that you're going to do it a certain way. That's fine. But I do want to push back a little bit on something you said that I think Sandra just agreed with, and that is we have to pick the most believable evidence. I would I don't think we have to pick the most of anything. I think we have to pick, we have to assemble compelling and powerful evidence. We don't have to pick the best single piece or the best 2 or 3 pieces, because that can leave the impression that that's the bulk of our case. So all I would say is, yes, you kind of hit those strongest areas very hard, but if you don't mention the other things, people don't even know that they are an issue. So I don't think it's the most believable. I think it's all the compelling evidence that we can put in to make a complete picture, I think needs to be considered.
And
That's
I
all I'm
think
saying.
what Raul said there is us getting the foot in the door with the most compelling. I like that, Craig.
Yeah, it's a good term.
Will lead to those other issues, definitely, because they're going to need
disagree.
to be talked about.
I still disagree with that, but we can agree to disagree. I don't think you make a less complete case in the hope that it will then set off a chain reaction. You give all your best evidence, I think.
Well, you got to have achievable goals, Craig. You have to have achievable goals. And that's key, is that what can we actually achieve convincingly? So there's going to be more resistance on other topics. Yeah, I mean, and this isn't the end all deal, but trust me that we're all doing the best that we can to be as inclusive as we can.
Did anybody?
Can I come in on that?
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, irrefutable. Hopefully my mic's okay.
A little hot, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'll draw back from it a bit. Irrefutable is a clear term, and it means that which cannot be disputed. And nobody has said anything yet, and since the question was asked, that is irrefutable. In other words, it can all be disputed. And Raul made a point there about things that are measurable. And the measure that NIST used in order to make it their analysis was a finite element analysis model that they based their conclusions on. Whilst they've not given us the input data for that, what they say in their report and what is irrefutable is that NIST said they had to make compromises in their model because of computational efficiency. Now, computational efficiency has moved on 20 years since they made the report. Therefore, it is irrefutable to say that the technology that NIST based their conclusions on was not sufficient to do the job. But the technology that exists now is sufficient to do the job. Therefore, it's irrefutable to say that NIST should revisit their analysis.
Jerry,
that's irrefutable. You can't.
Jerry, could you dumb down computational efficiency for me? What?
Right. It was taking them 2 weeks to do one simulation run. So in order to, they only had so long to do it. So that same run would now take 12 hours at maximum, or maybe less. And what they did was they took out some elements in the model, some structural elements, in order to reduce the computational power required to do it. Now, they admit that in their report. Therefore, it's irrefutable to say that the technology that they used was not up to the job because of the constraints of the technology at the time. Now, that's irrefutable. There's nothing else that's been said here that cannot be put up to a matter of opinion. Like, I think if you say, what temperature was there fair enough for melted steel, but then you've got to prove that there was melted steel. So that's not irrefutable. But to say that the technology that NIST used suffered from a lack of computational ability is irrefutable, because they say it in their report. And that's, you can take that and you can put that on the table and say, right, you should revisit this. This is the most serious terrorist attack that's ever happened on America. And you didn't have the computational ability in order to analyze it correctly, but now you do. So why won't you do it? Because you've got the models there, just add the extra elements. And that's irrefutable, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to respond to Chuck before we move on? Go ahead, Carroll.
Okay. I would say the destruction of the evidence that happened immediately afterwards, in violation of every normal procedure. The cover-up commission, which by their own words, they admit that they were flawed, they were built to fail, and there was a conflict of interest with all the commissioners. So that's another giant, huge thing. The fact that they used it, they lied about it to sell a war against Iraq to the American people, saying that Iraq had something to do with 9/11, which was completely false, but we have innumerable lies that it was used for that purpose.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? I see Craig Close. Go ahead. You're muted. He's getting there. Yep.
Some weeks ago, someone was discussing the flight recorders and saying it was irrefutable that the pilots were in control because the autopilot was off. Well, I'm in the school, I believe that they were electronically hijacked. And it was a back door. And we don't know what that back door provided to the flight recorder. It could simply have said, yeah, the autopilot is off, but I'm in control. So it's not irrefutable. There's some kind of argument until somebody knows absolutely what the back door did.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? All right, let's go to the hands. Lou, you're up.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to put in the chat, and I use the chat a lot. Hey, good to see you again. I haven't been on a long time. Great to see you guys.
Yes.
Back to Howard Lutnick, bad guy, current Secretary of Commerce. I watched Lee Camp, and I think a natural ally of ours should be Lee Camp, who works out of Washington, D.C. I grew up near D.C. We're all familiar with Unredacted Tonight and his working for RT years ago, and more recently putting out his own comedy. He's a comedian that's on our side and that realizes the ridiculousness of the official lies and is a real ally. I mean, Jesse Ventura is a friend of his. Chris Hedges, who I read and I think is like a spiritual leader for our group. He's an ordained Presbyterian minister. Chris Hedges, I've read numerous things by him. It's familiar to everybody on here. You mentioned Howard Lutnick. I want to mention Les Wexner, who Lee Camp did a comedy special on, using satire and irony to show the intense connections. In fact, I'm putting into the post into the chat right now. Les Wexner was identified as Epstein's funder/boss by Lee Camp. So I just want to emphasize that. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Lou. Craig, you're back up.
Me? I don't think I'm intended to be.
I meant the other Craig. Craig Close. Sorry.
Oh, the other Craig. Sorry.
You're good. Nope, he's good.
Not used to being.
Yeah, it's multiple Craigs now. Chuck Fall, back to you. You there, Chuck? Oh.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm 2 times here. Okay. I have some questions. I'm writing things down.
Man, hopefully they're not big questions like that again, because that went on
Well,
20 minutes. That's good. Yes, if you have good questions.
Pretty friggin' important question. And,
yes, sir.
So this is to Jerry, who said nobody has said anything here that's irrefutable. Okay. What people agreed is irrefutable is that we're being lied to. You accept that, don't you?
Yeah.
Or Jerry, let me interject here. Is it your position perhaps that claiming something false doesn't prove anything at all? Are you of that perspective?
No, what I'm saying is that something that's irrefutable is something that you can go to a court, put it on the desk and say, this is what happened. And what's irrefutable is that NIST said we couldn't model these buildings correctly because of computational efficiency. And nobody can dispute that because it's there in the report.
All right.
I mean, I'm not going to dispute. I'm not saying what crosses the bar of irrefutable. What I'm saying is what can you say about the NIST report that's irrefutable?
Okay, so that's fine. To Carroll, what you're talking about is the cover-up, and it's irrefutable that they lied and they covered up what really happened. So to some extent, it's kind of incumbent on anybody in the truth movement who's going to make a claim about this being a lie that you have to suggest, I think, what then is true. You have to tell the jury what really happened. This is what happens and what good lawyers do. You tell another story about what happened, and it was clearly an inside job. That shouldn't be too hard to prove. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Chuck. Go to Sue.
I wanted to get back to Lou about Lee Camp. I do follow Lee Camp. And by the way, he's been posting a lot of stuff about the crimes of Israel. And he is Jewish. Okay. And he says that many times. But he's a huge critic of Israel. But getting back to 9/11, I don't think I've ever seen him approach 9/11. Am I wrong? Has he approached 9/11?
Who's that?
Lee Camp.
Lee Camp.
Oh,
I have heard that he has very positively done that. I just can't remember what he might have said exactly, but he spent some time on it in our direction, yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
right.
yes, he is. Hang on. Let me just share this. I found some already real quick. Lee Camp, unredacted tonight. The 9/11 cover-up gets deeper. Philip Zelikow, right on the cover.
Cool.
There, and the
Yeah,
other
just
had
3 months ago.
9/11. 9/11, more connections between the CIA and 9/11 come out. So I will share. There's two. There's two good ones right there.
Yeah, and he makes it very digestible because by profession he's a comedian. Yeah. So he's definitely a good one to follow.
Cool. Thank you, Sue. Richard.
I got a lecture. I was given a lecture by David Ray Griffin on irrefutable and indisputable. They're different, and the term is being misused here, according to David. Any of us can dispute something. That's our right. We have the right to say, I disagree, and here's why. That's a disputing of an argument. The question of whether in your dispute of that argument you succeed in refuting it is a whole nother question. So anything is disputable, but not everything is irrefutable. So that's from David Ray Griffin. If he's right, we could use that as a model to use these terms more correctly.
Nice. Thank you.
Could I throw a quick comment on that? Because I'm glad that Richard mentioned Griffin, because I think Griffin is the model for what I believe we should always be doing. And if you look at the way he approached 9/11, he didn't just pick the best or the most persuasive evidence. He dismantled everything in the official story. It's all there, point by point by point. And then he, published it in a book, several books, a bunch of the books,
14.
and gave it to the world, like 14 of them. So my point there is, he didn't just say, well, look, I'm going to figure out what's the most exciting or compelling or whatever, and I'm going to focus on that because that'll resonate and that'll get people's interest, and then I'll just put that in a book. He didn't do that. He did the whole case, point by point, thousands of points.
But he wasn't limited in time, space, amount of books he could write.
Span over 20 years, those 14 books.
Yeah, that's he had the luxury of being able to spread it out every time, and he could take as much time as he wanted. Here we're dealing with something that has a very tight deadline and cannot exceed a certain scope in terms of volume either. So that's the big difference, I would say.
Right, except I wasn't really talking about this one effort.
Okay.
I was making a broader comment that Griffin, his approach to proving the story false was to pick all the points off one by one until really none of them stood anymore, because it was the whole case got torn down, and that I would urge people to think in terms of that model rather than the let's pick our favorite piece and really go to town on that, and the rest will take care of itself.
Thank you, Craig. Let's go to Carl Gullivan.
Yes. The question of evidence, irrefutability comes down to generally questions of fact in court cases where either the parties stipulate to a certain fact as true, hence irrefutable, or even the facts can be argued. But the whole purpose of evidence, and the only two types are either direct or circumstantial in a criminal federal trial, is to establish some level, either beyond a reasonable doubt is usually the standard for a jury in a criminal case, would be to prove a violation of some statute, a very specific alleged violation. And this whole thing is, of course, very political with Senator Johnson. And I'm not sure anyone has ever actually, is there a specific list of things that Johnson wants to prove or that he wants to avoid trying to prove? Is he willing to accept circumstantial evidence that might tend to prove just that Israel had foreknowledge of the events? But it's such a shame that because of all of our flawed communication processes, they just never communicated that. Or is he willing to entertain circumstantial evidence that there was, quote, Mossad or Sayanim, those non-Mossad, non-IDF people just in the general population who might feel very obedient to and inclined to do what they're asked to do by IDF or Mossad, such as even Larry Silverstein. Was he approached and said, hey, you might want to get this lease. It's in the best interests of all of us, let's say. But, again, is Johnson willing to go there? Is he willing, Richard, is he willing to let the Odigo messaging system information come in? Who is going to bring in the dancing Israelis? Who is going to bring in the hundreds of demonstrably Mossad spies who were rounded up and then sent back to Israel by dual national Michael Chertoff, the head of the criminal division at DOJ? Richard, what is Johnson willing to prove in terms of who is culpable for events? And this idea of inside job, well, to the extent that Mossad has thoroughly infiltrated every aspect of the federal system, they're inside. So, but yet most of us, when we're led to use inside as meaning good old red-blooded Americans, like just without any religio-political axe to grind, did this, which is, I think, pretty naive. So, Richard, who's going to present that circumstantial evidence of prior acts of false flag terrorism, like the Levant affair or the Liberty attack, which we now know was a cooperative false flag event at the highest levels of the U.S. government and Israel?
Well, that's not too easy to answer, but we are going to have a section on false flags. I hope that somebody presents all of the evidence that you cited and more. We're not going to do it because Johnson's uncomfortable with that and has asked us for irrefutable evidence. which we feel we,
Irrefutable evidence of what, though? Just irrefutable evidence that the official narrative is untrue? Because, I mean, that point can be belabored for a whole day of testimony. And, yeah, all of it's just, piling on the irrefutable evidence of the official narrative being untrue and NIST having lied. But do we ever approach culpability? Yeah, as directly as Dr. Alan Sabrowski did, or Christopher Boleyn did, and the repeated reliance upon David, let me finish the thought. David Ray Griffin, he never went where Boleyn did to that degree, and it's sort of a cop out for us to always rely on David Ray Griffin.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't specify.
I want to remind you that what originally triggered the interest in Johnson was the science, that NIST ignored science or manipulated science. And so those 3 NIST reports and the science behind them, that's what triggered his whole interest. And we haven't really fully addressed that with him. So that's the key target area that we have to approach him with. All these other things are outside of the realms of science.
Well, Raul, let me ask you a question, Raul.
Carl, I gotta move on because this is going on.
Well, please, this is directly to what Johnson triggered Johnson. And Raul, I met Johnson and explained to him my experience, along with many other colleagues, of sifting the rubble of 7, and that there are government records pertinent to what we extracted from the rubble. And Richard, Raul, is Johnson going to address that or not?
No.
How is he going to know?
I can't answer that one.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir. I'm going to move on. And I do appreciate the talk about NIST. And this isn't the only front. We happened to pass by Thomas Massey in the hall. I got to talk to him. Madhava said he got to talk to him. Ted Walter got to talk to him. And he is hugely trying to get Lutnick pushed out of Congress, because if we see that Lutnick is part of the cover-up of trying to keep control of NIST and not release these building models, the next person in, it's still a pipe dream, hopefully would be like, yeah, let those files go. And then we got a new interesting avenue to pursue. So thank you. Let's go to Magnus, and I am all queued up for you with these videos.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering, can we please start with the latest video, the last one? Wouldn't that where it stands, the last video?
Yep.
Thank you. This is crazy, guys.
Chomp, why were we so lucky? Why didn't we get this assignment? That's a rhetorical question, of course.
Why, I don't know really, other than the fact I pushed a lot for it. I will be honest with you, I pushed a lot. Jack Snell and I,
but why did we want it?
Let me set this up a little bit. I'm hearing the voice of Shyam Sunder, the lead investigator of World Trade Center investigation from NIST. And it seems to be that on the left, you're seeing the LS Dyna visualization of the World Trade Center 7 collapse. And on the right, you're seeing the video of it. You want to tell us something a little bit more before we watch this, Magnus? What are we going to be looking for?
We're just looking for what he's explaining and how he got his job and what he's doing. And I would say that this is a very interesting video of Shyam Sunder.
10-4, here we go. Okay.
Let me put it this way. NIST has done these investigations in the past. We have a long history of doing it. We are very proud of having done these things.
Trying to say that wasn't our first rodeo.
It wasn't our first rodeo.
A building and fire research laboratory that.
The Kansas City Hyatt Regency walkway collapse. You look at a number of high-profile events in the past.
Gene, he also said he didn't know.
I'm sorry?
He also said he didn't know why he got his job, and he pushed a lot of getting that job. So this is a crazy video you have to look into later. But I have a few other videos too.
Okay, we'll do that. I've never seen this one before. We'll check that out. Thank you. Let's go back to the first one. You said Ground Zero. I forgot what you said about this one. Something about metal, or maybe that was the next one. Let's just play this. Here we go.
Really fight for it because
when it comes to money and it comes to anything else, you know these builders don't care for me, you, or anybody else that comes with it but themselves.
It doesn't make any sense, and the families are starting to really realize that if we felt that our voices weren't being heard, we would come out and form a human chain before they do anything.
Thank you, Trine. But I think that counts today because of the builder. Yeah, run this part, please. Okay.
On this one?
Yeah.
Monica Eichen and a small group of victims' families met with World Trade Center leaseholder Larry Silverstein to plead their case.
Their attitude was, got to be another place you could build. Got to be, the mayor suggested before he left office, that don't build on the site. Find some other acreage on the west side of Manhattan or whatever.
He is a builder. He obviously has a lot at stake.
50,000 people living in Lower Manhattan desperately want the place to be rebuilt. Shopkeepers, thousands of shopkeepers want it to be rebuilt. The major corporations downtown desperately want it to be rebuilt. They said they understood that, and they agreed, provided we didn't build on that 16-acre site.
I would have hoped that he could have understood a little more.
All right, the next one's about metal. And then one more, and that'll be that. Here we go. Yes, this.
It's a new one. I found it yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, Richard, did you see that one? I hadn't seen this one before. There you go. Here we go. Watch this. Oop. Come on, play. Something going on there. All right.
That's a good one.
Thank you, Magnus. And one more you got, and we'll move on.
Yeah, a minute, 1 minute into the video.
1 minute into this one. Here we go.
Office is associated with thermite or thermite.
I saw thermite once in high school. It was very impressive, but I've never seen anyone use a material which melts steel for demolition purposes. I don't see how you could possibly get all of the columns to melt through at the same time.
On the internet, there are references to secret...
Yeah, we got it. Thank you, man.
Thank you. So we saw it last time. You remember the Tag building and demolition. So
yeah,
this
it definitely did happen.
Thank you for sharing, Jim.
Thanks, Magnus.
Thanks, Magnus.
Great to see you, Richard Gage, too, and everyone. Great.
Yeah, you too.
Let's go to Mikey Perazzo. Come on in, West Virginia. He's trying to find his mute button. There it is.
Here we go. Shit, what was I gonna say? Sorry. This always happens. Oh, it was kind of on the line of the irrefutable thing, but there was also something else too. But back to the irrefutable thing. I completely understand where Craig is coming from, but we're trying to do forcible entry right here, and we gotta like kick the door down with like Raul said, like what the science can prove, and the science can prove the Twin Towers did not happen like they said it did. I 100% want to talk about the Pentagon and Shanksville, but that's the most important things for us is the Twin Towers. That was number one. Number two.
That's his statement. That's his opinion. There we go. All right, go ahead. Number two.
Number two. We'll come back to me when we do the round around the room.
Aye. Thanks, Mikey. Mike Cook.
Hey, I want to thank most sincerely the panel that's working on the Ron Johnson project. I have full confidence you guys are going to do a great job. And I just wanted to suggest, just a suggestion, that you also submit, like as an addendum, all of the David Ray Griffin books that are relevant. If you have more time, you want more information, here you go.
That's a great thing to submit and get the PDFs to Ian Carroll to upload as far as the 9/11 data. For sure. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Back to Lou.
I think Richard would agree. There's going to be a lot of the addendums and footnotes and a reference list at the end of the document.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Mike. Lou?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Scott, Golovan,
Carl. Yep.
Carl.
Yes.
You know, we agree that culpability should be assigned to the Mossad and the Zionists. The key distinction we need to make in debate with the evidentiary people from all the different angles, from co-opted jetliners to, personally, I believe that they were drones or there's some CGI involved. It was a multiple process, including thermite. And so that aside, though, in terms of public relations, for what I call creators, conspiracy realist, educator, activist, truther, organizer, reader, socializers, I suggest that it's imperative that we follow the suggestion of Amos Oz. He's an Israeli Jewish refusenik. And the refuseniks have opposed war and Zionism and the displacement of the Palestinians from 48. There's been a percentage of Israelis that are dissidents that we need to ally with, and these include really Jewish heroes too, like Dennis Kucinich. Go back to Philip Roth in terms of literature. He was excoriated as being a self-hating Jew. That's the term that these ideologues of Zionism and power and Machiavellian mass murderousness, it's a distraction, it's a confusion, it's a sowing discord in a otherwise united movement like our truther movement. And that's why we need to distinguish between Zionism and Judaism. Judaism.
Well, if I could respond in part to that, I would have said 9/11 was perpetrated by, quote, Zionists, foreign and domestic, and their allied interests, which I think is sufficiently all-encompassing. I think
great term.
Part of that has to do with the alliance between the leaders of Judaism and the papacy. I mean, the World Jewish. Let me finish the thought. The World Jewish Congress even has offices now at the Vatican. You don't see the Vatican much protesting what's happening in Gaza, and good Catholics like Pompeo here, he's totally on board with genocide. So
not a good Catholic. Not a good Catholic, but he's a corrupt Catholic, and we agree that Zionism.
Well, but it's problematic. It's problematic that there's repeatedly been pressure on this call from Gene and others to, one doesn't. It's perfectly accepted to blame, quote, all the Nazis, all the National Socialists for every single Jewish death in World War II, but obviously that's just something that no one's going to argue either. The other side of that, but the defense of, quote, good Jews overlooks the fundamental words of Deuteronomy, which I once read on this call, and I think Gene wasn't very happy with it.
Well, just
because they are brutal in saying, when you go into the land, I'm giving you kill everything.
You're not even,
leave nothing alive.
And Carl, you don't even mention the Talmud. The Talmud is even worse, where Jesus is boiled in oil. So we don't want to get into theology.
Gene, this is important.
Yeah, well, I'm done with it. Thank you. Carrie Regine Boiler.
No fighting in the war room.
Yeah, Carrie. Also, all right, I'm going to ask you to please. I'm going to move on. Carrie Pregene Boiler was removed from Trump's Religious Liberty Commission after a contentious hearing on anti-Semitism, where she said, "We do not, as Catholics, support Zionism." That's all I want to say about that. Let's move on to something else more specifically 9/11 related. Ross,
we agree that. What was that final statement you made, Gene?
That she said that Zionism is not a belief of Catholicism.
Good. Make that distinction. That's what Amos Oz says. The purpose of a thinker is to make distinctions. Thank you, Gene.
Yep. Thanks.
Gene, war in Iran related. Gene, is that concerning the war in Iran? I put an X link in chat, and it describes in somewhat detail, even from a rabbi speaking about how the holiday of Purim has been used as the timing for attacking Iran.
Yeah,
And the mandate is that
that didn't resonate with me.
You're in denial, and we're all
right. Thanks, and we're moving on. Ross, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to address Carl's point earlier about how he thinks well designed. His information on the Israelis is, of course, very important, but it is not naive to think that the U.S. government and people in the United States were heavily involved, more so than the Israelis, by the mere technical fact of how difficult it would be to bring those buildings down the way they did. You can't just have the Mossad go in there with thousands of bombs that they're going to have to rig and plan and do all that planning and all that demolition planning and destruction, and have the Zionists or the Israelis.
Have you heard of the B team? B team that was in the building for a year.
And they could not have done that alone. They would have to have done that with the Port Authority, and that would have had to have been planned years in advance before they brought the Mossad in.
Well, who controls the Port Authority?
That's a good point. And that's the Nazi industrialists. That's Henry Kissinger.
There's not National Socialist industrialists.
All right, Carl, if you want to get yourself a broadcast show, go for it.
If people, in other words, we're going to let Ross complete his talk, and then the Americans were involved very heavily. The owners of the World Trade Center were involved very heavily before anybody from Mossad got involved, I think. And I can.
If I'm addressed by name, I get to respond.
Okay, but so anyway, the next point I wanted to make was about the Silverstein video there that Magnus put up. That's a misnomer there. You got a real serious head fake, because he says, yeah, the New Yorkers, we all wanted it rebuilt, the World Trade Center, like as if it was the way he wanted it rebuilt. I can tell you, New Yorkers wanted the original towers rebuilt better. They wanted the original towers rebuilt. They didn't want his thing. I can tell you that for sure.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Ross. And you weren't here at the very beginning. I wanted to share this with you. It'll be in the show notes, just real quick to show you. They plan on breaking ground for the new World Trade Center too, and it was kind of along your lines with the Garden Terraces. They're looking to break ground spring 2026 and wrap up by 2031. So take a look into that. It'll be in the show notes. Cool. I did forget to mention that the 9/11 teleconferences did have Nita Renfrew on. Craig, if you just want to do a recap real quick on how that went.
Yeah, we had an almost 4-hour discussion. That's 2 months in a row that we've pulled. Wow. Usually we do 2 hours, and 2 months in a row now we've gone 4. But obviously it was that went that long because people were into it and engaged in it, and so it's very, very interesting. What's that?
Explain who she is real quick for everybody.
Nita, I mean, she's got a resume that's longer than your arm. She's she's basically been a journalist, and she's got a very long history of very interesting things she's done in her life, including apparently she knew Salvador Dali. Apparently, this is something I didn't know before, which blew my mind. But anyway, so she did this. She did these interviews in the 1990s with members of the constitutional militia movement in the United States. And she's now actually, all these years later, she's been able to get this published, and it's going to come out this year. And so she talked all about that. And so it was a real discussion about the Constitution and sort of fighting to stand up for it and that sort of thing. If you I've got the video up already, so I can put that in the chat if anybody's interested in having a look at
She's
that.
American? Like you're talking about the
Yeah,
American
she's from New York.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
because you're talking about Constitution. I'm like, you're from Canada. I don't know how that works, but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, nobody says the Constitution and means Canada. You got to specify.
Right. Yep, 10-4. All right. Anybody else? Any other quick announcements or anything before we go around the room? Anything to let everybody know about this and this last week that happened? All right. Let's go around the room. Mike Cook, anything for the group?
Yeah, I heard from Whitney Wednesday yesterday. She called me from jail on Saturday, and I was able to find her online. I've been looking and looking and looking, and she was never here. She's been in Louisville, now in Hamilton County. Cincinnati's Hamilton County, Ohio. I don't know how this works, but according to her, she's supposed to be released tomorrow and have her probation reinstated.
Wait, who's Whitney?
Whitney Wednesday, the girl that was tied up in the basement.
Oh, 10-4.
I've been trying to help for years now, and she's going to have to go back to Louisville, which is probably a good thing. I like having her around. And so that's my big news. We'll find out tomorrow. And if I had anything to do with getting her probation rescinded, I'm very happy about that. Who needs to be in jail are the psychos that tied her up in the basement, not her.
Thanks. All right. Good luck on that one, or good fortune.
Thank you.
Thank you. John Olson, anything for the group?
Mainly I've been following the Iran thing intensely. Scott Ritter has a long discussion with Danny Haiphong that's well worth listening to about about the mentality of the Iranians after the killing of Khomeini. It's very, very intriguing because he said this is going to just make it, instead of decapitating, it's going to incite them to fight even longer and harder than otherwise. That he was actually welcoming martyrdom, and that's understood in the Iranian culture very well, as opposed to just hiding in a bunker and going from place to place. He welcomed exactly what happened, and because it will make sure they win. So listen to Craig on that. He knows what he's. I mean, to
Scott Ritter.
Scott Ritter, yeah, and it's with Danny Haiphong.
Nice.
Today.
And you just reminded me about something, and it was a news article that I had missed. Thank you for the reminder. This came out today. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad killed in the Israeli-U.S. strikes. Wow. What does this have to do with 9/11? Well, if you guys remember, he was very outspoken about 9/11, and I'm just going to play this video clip. I have it's 1 minute. And I think it's narrated by somebody that obviously is not on our side, but it still lets you know the good points about it. So here we go.
That's news to me. I haven't heard that.
Always an unpredictable public speaker, but this time President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has outdone himself. There were raised eyebrows even among Iran's allies in the UN General Assembly's annual ministerial meeting, where Mr. Ahmadinejad
This is 2011 United Nations Assembly meeting. Listen to what he said here.
Suggested that the 9/11 attacks were staged by America to save Israel. The US delegation walked out of the meeting in New York rather than wait for details of the Iranian leader's conspiracy theory. For the record, Mr. Ahmadinejad espoused the theory that segments within the US government orchestrated the terror attacks on September the 11th, 2001 to reverse the declining American economy and its grip on the Middle East in order to save the Zionist regime. He went on to claim that the majority of the American people, as well as most nations and politicians around the world, agree with this version of events. The bizarre speech won a smattering of applause from the chamber, some of it bemused, much of it from the Iranian corner. But the end of the speech at least meant that the Americans felt they could return to the room.
That sounded like more than a smattering of the room, but there was a lot of claps to that. Thank you, John, for reminding me about that. So, yeah, they took out a former president, like back in 2005 to 2013. What precedent have we set now? You can go back and assassinate former presidents like 13 years ago. Hey, all right. Craig Close, anything for the group? Nope. Jetty. He's getting there.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you, Gene, on your persistence with Ian Carroll, and I think that that whole project really will pay dividends in what we're doing, and it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been as persistent as you had been. So I want to pat you on the back for that. Well done.
Thank you. Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Great job, Gene.
Thank you. Thank you. Craig, anything for the group?
Well, I'll mention. I'll take note of. I mentioned it in the chat, and I'll just mention it here. That Andy Steele did an article this week that I think is important for the truth movement to take note of, because I believe it requires some action that I think will save us from the danger of some sort of surprise in the future, whereby we could have some breakthrough that we're on the verge of sort of derailed by some things that don't enhance our credibility. And it's not, I would, and for those who know what I'm talking about, it's not about embarrassing anybody. It's about protecting the truth movement. And I think, I would urge people to read that. I reposted it on my own Thought Crimes and Misdemeanors, but it's on Andy's Insomniac Av blog. So I suggest checking that out, because I think there are some things that, the last thing that we need as a movement, I think, is a repeat of what happened with Spike Lee. We don't want to have some little thing pulled out at the last minute that's going to, like a little grenade that's going to go off and derail things. What we want to do, I think, is we want to deal with it. It's better to deal with it now, make whatever, statements need to be made, and then it's done. And then nobody can come back a year from now and blow this up and sort of take advantage of it as an opportunity to kind of derail what we're perhaps on the verge of achieving at that point. It's better to deal with it now, and then it doesn't come back to bite us later. So I suggest people have a look at that and think about it.
Thanks for being here, Craig. Let's go to Brian.
Thanks.
Well, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I do have a few points to raise. I appreciate Mr. Gage bringing up the semantic difference between indisputable and irrefutable. And that's the difference between fact and opinion. And too many truthers do not know the difference. Ross said he was the only one of us that was in Manhattan on 9/11. I was in Manhattan on 9/11. I'm not going to tell that story now, but that's why I celebrate the cause of the 9/11 widows in their quest for truth. And Carl, nobody disputes that the Mossad had advanced knowledge of 9/11. So did George W. Bush. There were warnings from 12 foreign countries, the 4 FBI offices, and the CIA. And then he talks about the B team in the World Trade Center. The B team was not Jewish. They were Austrians from Vienna, Austrians. They were professional artists, and they still are. They were not Mossad agents.
Might need to fact check some of that.
I have. Unlike you, I do check my facts.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Nice to hear you. Oh.
Oops, sorry, you're muted. Sorry, there we go.
I wanted to say nice to hear you speak.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a guy recently I've been following on Facebook. You look like you could be his brother or his some type of relative. I wish I could say who he is. He's this. Let me just show his picture. If anybody knows his name, this is funny. This guy. Wait. Oh, come on. I'm stealing my photo. Why want to
run?
That guy. It looks like you're related to him. I don't know. You even got the beard. You're a little bit more wise than he is, I'll say. But
well, if you're gonna put everybody with a beard in the same category, everybody's related.
Everything. That's wild. Right on. I'll find out what his name is. That's pretty cool.
I think Gene's saying it's more than just the beard.
It's more than the beard. It's the face. That's wild. Anyway, I'll find out what his name is.
Yes, please do. Curious.
Mike Sorzano, anything for the group? Getting to the mute. He's almost there. So close. And we'll come back.
Or maybe not.
Matt Van Syke, anything for the group? Good to see you. No, yeah. All right, good to see you. Carol Brule, anything for the group?
Just that the owner of the Grand Lake Theater is retiring, and so we probably won't get the Grand Lake Theater this year, which is a shame. It would have been our 22nd annual film festival, and it is a big year. So I'm not sure what we're going to be doing this year.
Oh boy, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That was Alan Michon. He deserves a lot of credit for supporting the truth movement and other progressive movements over the years.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you. For what it's worth, I'll be praying about that one. Magnus.
Maybe it opens new doors. You never know.
Yeah. Doors closed, doors open. I've seen that. Magnus?
Oh, yeah. Thank you to everyone, and keep up the great work there, Justice friends, and have a great week.
You too, Magnus. Thank you. Captain Tony Robbins, piloting his vehicle.
Hey, good to see you guys. Good job moderating.
Thank
Gene.
you.
You're really good at that. Raul finished his article on cognitive dissonance. I'd throw that out there. I read it, and I think he's trying to get it published in a couple different fire journals. Really good. Hope that gets tossed around and shared. And also I received the paper from Pierce, Professor Pierce Robinson, about the flight simulator study that I participated in last year.
Nice.
Yeah, he finished with the lower experienced pilots, and he sent out a rough draft on that. Very well done, and irrefutable information in that paper. So I hope that gets around to everybody soon as well.
Yeah, we'll make sure of it.
Yeah, I think Ted's probably got a copy of that, but yeah, you should check that out.
Thank you. And for those that don't know, Tony Robbins is captain in the fire department, retired captain in the fire department, and he's also a pilot for a small airline. So he is the man of not afraid of things.
He's the one who has the best chances of actually meeting people face to face. Because
yeah,
I fear my wife from time to time.
Right. Lou, forgive me. I'm going to go to Raul to follow up with that, since he brought up Raul's articles that are going to be coming out. Raul, anything for the group?
Just that Marty Hopper co-wrote it, and yeah, we're just waiting for it to be published in the Fire Journal Americas or the International. That's all I have to contribute.
All right, just hang on, stay right there on camera. Anybody?
My Sheikh Khalid,
yeah,
Sheikh Khalid shirt.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta look. There we go.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you, Raul.
You're welcome.
Back to Lou. Anything for the group, Lou? He looks like somebody too.
I love you guys. You guys are doing God's work, man, because like in 1 John 4:8, God is love. Take out the personification, the anthropomorphism. Imagine there's no heaven, no hell, no limbo down, bro. Limbo down.
All right,
hey,
John
seriously,
Lennon, thank you.
Seriously, one more thing. New Freedom, Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania is where I've been contracted to perform as Abraham Lincoln 2 times in the coming year.
Nice.
June 27th and 28th, and then also November 7th and 8th. So I'm going to squeeze the 9/11 event. I got a buddy that retired from Marriott, so I'm hoping to stay for free in downtown Manhattan and participate as Abraham Lincoln in the 25th anniversary event.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nobody's better qualified.
One stolen 5 years ago. Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
I've got something good and short, if y'all don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was guide doing different things, and sometimes you get these clients that'll say, "You look familiar to me." You know, we had our TV show on the public access. They might have seen me on the YouTube or whatever, and I was just blowing them off. And then I finally used the standard response. You've probably seen my picture in the post office.
Thanks, Mike. Jack, anything for the group?
Yes. I'm on a bad phone, so I hope you can hear me.
We can. Actually, better than usual.
Oh, that's good to know. There was a lot of propaganda before our attack on Iran, and the American public and all the local news stations that I listened to bought every single word of it. So we have to understand that the people we're trying to convince are not sophisticated, and they don't have any cynicism. You know, they believe what the media tells them, and we have to deal with that.
Aye, aye.
They're gullible. Yeah, we're all gullible.
Yeah.
No, we're not, because we see through some of it, but most people aren't. And I'll use my other illustration. If they don't care, they wouldn't. If you gave them absolute proof with 100 videos of all the cameras around the Pentagon that it was hit by a missile, it wouldn't make any difference. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. That's dumb. And then they'll quote Bill O'Reilly or Sean Hannity or, you know,
an authority
on that, and they'll believe that what those guys said was the truth, and my 100 videos is not worth anything. So we have to realize that's who we're dealing with and who we're trying to convince.
Well, it's propaganda.
Oh,
it's
okay.
propaganda.
All right. Thanks, Jack. I'm going to mute because you're
It's Lou. It's Lou.
Knowing it's propaganda
Okay, thanks, Lou.
doesn't lessen its effect on the rubes. Mark Twain said it's easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled. So it's an educational movement that we're involved in, and it, you know your audience. When the student is ready, the teacher will come, right?
Yeah. What I find most interesting in this is it seems like everybody and their brother is now talking about 9/11. If you're following on social media, all of these social influencers are grabbing, and they're getting tens and hundreds of thousands of views. And it's almost like, even though many of us have been in this 9/11 truth movement, some of you for so much longer than I have, it's like this wave that's passing us by. Like, they're all talking about it. And this wave of awareness is like so much bigger than us. And you can't even try to control it anymore. It's just the cat's out of the bag big time.
And it's not even that. It's like the new ones, the younger ones who are talking about it, whatever they just latched onto in terms of what woke them up. And you hear them talking about it the way that maybe we did like 15 years ago. And it's like, it's cringy because all of these things that we know is like, okay, that's not exactly what it is. That's not really what happened, but they're making it.
They're talking about it.
They're talking about it. And I guess as long as everybody does their research and gets, gets the little things right eventually. But hey, the door's open.
Yep. Let's go to Ross. Anything for the group, Ross?
Yeah, I'm very glad to hear Brian Good was there on the day. I didn't think I felt kind of lonely in the room with that. So now I'm not so lonely as much. But I would say too that the most important thing, I don't know, Brian, were you there for the month or 2 months afterwards, or were you just there on the day? Or
I was there, and what I remember about 9/12 is the stink.
Yeah.
That came from ground zero. It smelled like melted electrical wiring, and it was just horrific. And I was there for a year after that.
Yeah, and that's the key point. You said it. I didn't prompt you on that. It was the smell. So we all saw that what happened with all the videos, and if you were there, you saw the buildings being blown up, but you smelled it for 2 months. Okay. And smell is the longest memory sense that we have. We have the longest long-term memory with smell than any other sense. It's something we need to pursue, I think, in terms of evidentiary accumulation with people that were in New York. I would also say, that we talked about who's responsible for 9/11. Well, I've added another person as a very likely participant in the early developmental stages. I had, of course, David Rockefeller and, of course, Henry Kissinger. But Edward Bernays was still very active in the CIA and in his planning. And I think Edward Bernays, this is right down his alley. Of course, Rockefeller had it all set up to go because those buildings were planned to come down safely if they needed to have them come down. And they are the ones. So Edward Bernays, I'm adopting his philosophy, and I'm going to turn it on its head, because he said humans are, we're all just kind of, we talked about it on the show tonight, we're all kind of, humanity doesn't really want to change. They want to stay with the given story and they want to be comfortable. What do? Well, you want to manipulate them. You want to get them to do something. You got to give them an irrational desire. That was Edward Bernays. Give them an irrational desire, and that will get them to do whatever you want them to do. So I'm going to get them to do whatever I want them to do, knowing that they're just these petty little humans, but I'm going to turn it on its head. And instead of for the benefit of the elites, it's going to be for the benefit of them in the long term. So 9/11 does that for us. Irrational desires. I'm not afraid of that now. I want to be positive about 9/11 happening. And I'm not going to, I think it's belittling 9/11 a bit to talk about firefighters' deaths and bankers' families' deaths. I think it's much bigger, much more serious than that, and has a much greater potential for good.
Interesting.
Okay.
Thank you, Ross. Let's go to Sweet Jane.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. First, if we have access to Raoul's article on cognitive dissonance before it gets published, and maybe, I don't know if he wants to respond first before I ask the second question, or what?
Let's see if he goes to the mic.
Yeah, Raoul, I don't know if you heard the question for you.
Raoul, there he is.
Yeah, are you there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send the Word document to Gene, and we can put it out. Fine.
Great. Okay.
We'll
Wonderful.
put that out.
Who is this? I don't have my video on. Who's asking the question?
Jane. It's Sweet Jane.
Sweet Jane. I could send it to Susan and Al, and they could forward it to you.
We're good. Well, also,
Wonderful.
if
That
it's
would
all
be
right,
great.
Raoul, if it's okay, we could put it in the our recap notes, so we send out the email tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it. I'll get you the latest version of it.
Cool.
The latest and final version of it. Yeah.
You sure you don't want to run the risk of someone just stealing it and shipping it to some other magazine and publishing it under their name?
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I'm not gonna worry about that.
Thanks, Raoul. All right, Jane, your second
That's
question.
fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Raoul.
Okay, my second question is for Jack. When he mentioned, which I'm sure is true, the lies of the mainstream narrative about the Iran situation, and I just wondered if he could explain exactly what he means by that. There seemed to be a general understanding that we all know what that means, and I guess I'm not sure exactly what aspect of that whole thing is you know. I mean, it's national security or whatever. When you do, yeah.
Jack?
Well, we killed many of those people that died in the demonstrations in Iran. It was a huge multi-billion-dollar effort. I studied this when I was in college, and same place Netanyahu went. And the actual figure was about 700 people died, and many of them were shot, machine gunned by Mossad agents who were there in the crowd. And but anyway, they're now saying 38,000 people died, and they're saying they show pictures of the people demonstrating in support of the government, and they say, oh, they're demonstrating against the government. So it's really
we say our perspective is that they were demonstrating against the government or for.
Well, these are just news stories. I haven't really kept track of who said what, but
yeah. Okay.
The news stories. And since I've got you on the phone, Jane, we both have indirect connections to David Rockefeller. Barton was a friend of Abby Rockefeller, his oldest daughter, and David used to stay with her in Cambridge when he came to town. And he said absolutely not. He was not involved with 9/11. I got that from Barton and several other people who talked directly to Abby, and Abby asked her
I'm sorry, that who was not directly involved?
David Rockefeller was not involved with 9/11.
Oh, okay.
He was very angry, and he said, I was absolutely not involved with that.
Okay.
In Cambridge at Abby
whatever that means.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Jack.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Richard, anything for the group?
I wanted to make sure that Andrew Teese, who was on the call earlier, got introduced. I came in late, so
Yeah, he He had to drop off because it's late for him over in Europe.
Congrats, I should have thought of that.
And I did see him come in, and it wasn't a good time to interrupt for it, and then I didn't. So
Do you want to go ahead and introduce him so that people know who was here?
yeah, well, I think you know more about him, or Gene anyways. You both know more about him than I do, except that he's in Great Britain. He's writing a book with your help. Well, not with your help, but with the help of your fact checking and your making sure he's got everything right. And when we he reached out to Gene on X. We had a little Zoom call with him privately, and as it turned out, he lives literally a 5-minute drive away from Paul Cayley, also in the UK. And as far as we know, they connected, and we're supposed to go for a beer. So, but as far as what his book's about, you may want to explain that better than me.
I really haven't had any input on the book. I know he's including Building 7 and many other things that are reports that are done by Ted Walter and others, Pierce Robinson.
Yeah, no, super great guy, very humble, very well spoken, just all around good guy.
And I believe he's an engineer, if I recall, architect or engineer.
He's an architect.
Yeah, so that's great. But he didn't actually want to get into the architect side of it. He was looking more at the historicity, I believe, of 9/11 in his book. But we shall see. Anything else? Crime Scene Courtroom, you're working on episode 6.
Yep.
Episode 1 through 5 are out there. I'm trying to make clips. We got a suggestion from a lady on X saying, hey, just finding this out that this is out there, but for the short attention span people, it'd be nice if you guys could make clips. So I now have a professional account with this Opus, which allows you to basically put an hour long or whatever video in there, and it'll cut it up into a bunch of pieces. So I'm going to start dripping out clips of
but intelligently, right? It's not just okay, right?
Yeah, intelligent clips.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, copy Ellie on those. He'll put them up on X.
Nice.
Thank you, Gene. That's really an awesome offer.
Yep. Susan, anything for the group other than Sandra Hicks coming out this Thursday, 6:30 p.m.
You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Hey, I'm trying to buy time.
Yeah, but you have to tell her that she's muted.
Oh yeah. She's getting there. She's on her phone. Let me try to help her.
There we go. I got it. I'm sorry. I thought I had unmuted myself. Yeah, so I hope to see you all on Thursday. We are doing a few changes with Boston 9/11 Truth. We're going to have speakers once a month instead of every other week. And we're not going to attempt to hold our agenda at the end of those speaker shows because that's not working at all. So we're holding separate agenda meetings with just our core group people in Massachusetts, because the agenda deals with boots on the ground for Boston 9/11 Truth. And so just to let you all know what we've got planned so far, April 20th, we're at the break of dawn is Patriots Day, the anniversary of the Lexington Concord event. And we're going to show up there, have a table, pass out literature. Chris Bergier is going to wear his John Hancock costume. And then this is the 250th anniversary of the country, of Independence Day. So that's a big one. Boston always has a big event, the Esplanade. That's where the Boston Pops performs, and fireworks, and special other performers. It's an all-day event on the Charles River in Boston, and we're going to be there. We weren't there last year, but we'd done it every year prior to that. So again, with costumes, tables, and passing out literature. So that's July 4th on the 250th anniversary. And then on the 25th anniversary, we're also going to hang our banners. It's going to be three events on the 25th anniversary in Boston. We're looking into hiring another aerial banner to fly over Boston. And also going to table at the State House. And that's a Friday, so we can actually go in and speak to the legislatures about this.
Nice.
So,
Hand it. Boston, a whole lot of just dedication and perseverance there.
Yeah. Are you having discussions about what the banner's going to say? You're going to go with the old message?
we got time. We're
Yeah.
having discussions.
Okay.
I think the old message is probably good enough. But first we're going to find out how much it costs and take a look at what we've got in the bank account. I'm pretty sure we can afford it this year. So because we haven't had any expenditures, and we've been building it ever so slowly but steadily.
Nice.
And so I think this format is going to work out much better, so we have more time for actual activism instead of just having speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. John, I think has a comment real quick. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I do. Exactly right. I'm encouraging everybody, including mobilizations like that, to start handing out very good little copies of the Bill of Rights.
Oh, yes.
We really need to get this out to thousands, hundreds, thousands, millions of people to understand what the Constitution gives us rights to do and its restrictions on government.
Yep.
Thank you, John. I just also want to mention, just personally, I'm going to be in Scotland from the 17th through the 26th, hoping to coordinate plans with Jerry, meeting up with him, and hopefully with Paul Cayley as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, then you can meet Andrew Teese as well.
Oh, well, he doesn't know me. I
No,
don't
right.
know.
We can all get together.
That would be nice. Does he know Paul or
Yeah, that's what
Jerry?
They connected at least over Zoom, and they were supposed to meet in person. Yes.
Yep. Cool.
Oh, well, that would be really good. Yeah.
Chuck, anything? Thank you, Sue. Chuck, anything for the group?
Yeah, I got a few points. Hold on. I was impressed with the Ahmadinejad president's remark in the UN, and I remember when that happened. And it was kind of like Chavez coming onto the podium after President Bush left, and he said, "I smell sulfur." So there's been some very interesting moments at the UN that's worth. So my question is, would this group, would the 9/11 Truth Movement stand in solidarity with the position that Ahmadinejad represented? And he didn't say the Israelis did it. He said it was an inside job. His intelligence informed him that it was an inside job, and it was due to prop up the Zionist entity. So I have a clip I'll share next time I'm on about the culprits, and I think we should talk about culprits. My second point is to Richard, who said he didn't want to present anything to Senator Johnson that would offend his sensibilities, like saying, as Carroll claims, that Israel did 9/11 using, American proxies. I support Richard on declining on that point. Saying 9/11 was an inside job and then it was treason, not terrorism, I think is something we should all accept and argue that point and represent that as a matter of fact, not an allegation, just say it. 3, Lou, Abraham Lincoln in 1846 called out President Polk, false flag, big lie, that Mexicans killed Americans on American soil. Now, Americans.
He was vilified in the press as Spotty Lincoln because he said in Congress, show me the spot, President Polk, where United States citizenry or forces were fired upon. Is between the Rio Grande, and I believe that the river north of there was the Natchez.
Well, that's a great historical moment to kind of cite, to connect this practice by the plutocrats to deceive us, to get their way. 5, let me see here. So, we have a TAP Talk coming up Tuesday. I think there's a lawyer for Takis. If Mike wants to say something about who our prospective guest is, I'll let him add on to that. 5, the orphans, the 9/11 orphans, the unrepresented buildings. I know, there's a gestalt to the World Trade Center. It's not just, 3 buildings, it's multiple. And there's the St. Nicholas Church. It was pushed 20 feet into its footprint. I mean, I don't think we should be dismissive of these other anomalous orphan elements. Okay. Peace out. Have a great week, everyone.
That's news to me. St. Nicholas Church. This is the church just south of World Trade Center 2. Was undamaged. We'll have to look at that. But okay, thank you.
All right.
Susie Bonham Craig, anything for the group?
Well, what a week, guys.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I started out last Sunday with 2 goals. One of which was to get on crime scene to courtroom and start commenting on Richard's videos, but there was a glitch, and although he fixed it, I still haven't been able to go back yet. The other one was to really hone in on how to file FOIA requests, since I got a kick on this regarding Lutnick. And some questions that I wanted to put together towards to have for some of the wives, spouses, or family members, and I was surprised to see that you had a conversation with Patty Casazza, because I would have loved to have been there. But I have some reservations, because the vibe that I got from that phone call was that she's really not. I mean, is she aware of all the stuff that's going viral about him and his connection to Epstein and whatever? Because it seemed kind of
So that was earlier. It was a TAP Talk. I did reach out. I reached to Chuck and Mike, and they said that she's now going through some personal issues with a part or somebody in the family, and that she's basically taken a step back from everything. But yeah, it seems like we're missing a big opportunity to talk to her, because Lutnick is front and center of news right now.
Yeah, and that talk was about a month ago, so it's before all of this happened and blew up. So we weren't quite there yet. Like, we had the regular connection. We knew it was as head of as the Secretary of Commerce that he headed NIST, oversaw NIST, but that was pretty much all we had at the time.
Yep.
Okay, so is she really the only contact that we have?
Kind of. We could probably try to get, we'll work with Ted and getting a hold of Lori Van Auken, because her husband died at Cantor Fitzgerald too. So we could try that.
Okay. And then just one more thing. I came across something. The reason why because of everything that's going on, I stumbled across something, a researcher who went through 44,000 files. He was able to build a tool. I don't know if it's anything like what Ian Carroll has, which I'm also excited about, by the way. And then ended up going through 840,000 files to put together what Epstein and his cohorts were building. And this, for the world, I should say. So I've been blown away by it. I'd love to share it with you, Dean. I can send it to you. I just don't have the links right in front of me right now. But yeah, be ready to have your minds blown.
All right.
It's unbelievable. I wish we could do the same thing with the 9/11 files.
Yeah. And I can help you out a little bit with the filing of FOIA through its eFOIA system, FBI. It's quite easy through the FBI website. I'll show you. some things are
Right. I just want to be able to gather the information, you
Oh.
know, for the questions to ask, like what's the most important, what's the most pertinent, because of everything that's coming out now. There's just so many different angles.
Yep. Thank you, Susie.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Carl,
Bye.
anything for the group?
Yes, two things. Excuse me, I was just having a bite to eat. Did anyone discuss in the Epstein records? It turned out that he once spoke of having had his prostate removed, which it turns out in the autopsy, the body that was autopsied had a prostate.
Well,
so that's
I
sort
got
of
an answer on that.
best evidence that he perhaps is probably still alive.
So Dr. Chris Martenson published that really quickly when that went up, and then he retracted it because he said the verbiage was not as specific as he thought it was, and he didn't find it to be compelling. But and I should add that Dr. Chris Martenson was a medical doctor, so he has a pretty good idea about it.
Well, the more interesting thing I have to share is probably if you'll put up the photo I put in chat of Epstein with two of his attorneys.
Yep, getting there. Yes.
So this is my 1 degree of separation from Jeffrey Epstein. The attorney on the left is Guy Lewis, who I met very early in my career as an agent, also early in his career as an assistant U.S. attorney in Miami. And, we saw each other as I met with various AUSAs, as did all agents who brought cases to their office. And anyway, we're sufficiently close friends that when I got reassigned back to the DC area, who's not muted? Can you mute them, Gene?
We're not getting any feedback at all, Carl.
Oh, I was here. Okay. So, sufficiently close friends. I invited him to, the church I just begun attending, and he came and met me. And at that time, his position was executive director of all U.S. attorneys' offices, which is an extremely important position. Yeah. And if there's anybody who can be freed from the binds of attorney-client privilege and to speak, somebody at some point, inordinate pressure has been brought upon him to do things that, in my experience, he never would have done. Because when I knew him, he was like, what would you say, as pure as a freshly fallen snow. I mean, he was
what's his
attorney
name
from Guy G-U-Y Lewis. Anyway, he was from Tennessee, and he was a prosecutor there in the Miami Southern District of Florida, U.S. Attorney's Office. And so we got to know each other. But around 2010, 11, I was trying to retire to a small condo I'd kept in South Florida. And I knew nothing about his association with Epstein, et cetera. But I found myself being fucked with. I'm getting feedback from someone else's microphone now. So somebody had been in my apartment. Some mail was missing that should not have been missing. A lot of different things happened. People crossing paths with people who were threatening. It caused me to reach out for my longtime friend Guy Lewis, for legal advice. I felt like I was being, in a sense, set up on something, and so we met a few times, and he strangely required a retainer that was unreasonable, I thought, for the circumstances. And I found myself, I believe this was in the summer of 2011, literally sitting in his attorney's office in Coconut Grove. He was partners with Mike Teen, who was the other attorney in that photo with Epstein. They were, among the legal team that brokered that deal with Alex Acosta, who also I knew from bringing cases to the attorney's office, their U.S. attorney's office. So anyway, as I was totally stressed out, sitting in Guy Lewis's, the receptionist's office, it was after hours, like 6 p.m, and Guy had left me to go attend to something else. And I felt like it was a pressure cooker sort of psychological moment. And I literally picked up the receptionist desk phone and called 911 to report things I was concerned about. And actually, after I hung up, I picked up the phone and called them again with a few other details. And I won't go into what I was.
Yeah, that's not
Did you
30 seconds.
Yeah, and people are dropping off, and I still want to get to other people.
Well, not everybody has called 9/11 from the attorney's office of one of Epstein's key attorneys. So, and I have, in retrospect, I might think some of my being fucked with might have had something to do with my whistleblowing on a couple of matters. At that time, not 9/11. So that's it.
Thank you. Josh Schoenfeld, anything for the group?
Good evening. I enjoyed listening to the discussion about best evidence to submit to Senator Ron Johnson. I was thinking that a thing to submit to Senator Johnson is that George Tenet lied to the joint inquiry. For example, in March of 2000, the Bangkok CIA station sent a cable that was widely disseminated to the CIA, throughout the CIA and to CIA headquarters, stating that Hazmi and Minar had traveled to the United States. In testifying before the joint inquiry, when questioned by Senator Carl Levin, Tenet said no one read that cable. However, the CIA Inspector General issued a report stating that 50 to 60 people read that report. So this is clear evidence of Tenet lying to the joint inquiry. And I believe that Senator Johnson or anybody in Congress who wants to take another look at 9/11 should be asking, why did Tenet lie? Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Figa.
Oh yeah, quick question. Because people mentioned the pile. I was actually wondering. I remember there was a South American photographer who I believe died maybe in South America, who had a lot of pictures and video from around Ground Zero. But my larger question, if someone's quick with the link, I was wondering what we had for some of the best evidence, maybe that some of us have not seen, because we heard about the molten metal running through the channelways and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, it's just a question, do we have any good photographic or video evidence, especially for the report that's going to Ron Johnson? But I was just wondering if anyone could link me to that, because I think there should be some pretty damning evidence from the pile. I'm pretty sure it would be suppressed, of course, but yep, just an open question there.
Yeah,
for someone who might know.
No, only Richard could answer that, I think.
Yeah, that's a big question for the last wrap up. We'll continue.
Kurt Sonnenfeld is the photographer for FEMA
yep.
that you're referring to.
Yep.
I didn't find anything quite helpful other than an interesting empty vault that he was photographing that looked like it had been blown open.
Okay, yep. Yeah, no, it's just surprising that there's a lack of that given the number of people who are working the pile. And I just don't know if there's anything new to be uncovered there if someone had taken pictures. But no, it's more to take offline, or if someone had a link to evidence I hadn't seen. But
well, Magnus just had a great little video there.
There's a gentleman that I've been following on Facebook that was down there, and he took a picture that had molten metal in it. And I said, is there any way we could get the rest of the rules of your film? And he was going to come on and talk a couple times, and he just hasn't. But I'm still friends with him. I'll try to remember who he is. But yeah, I'm sure there's people that have stuff that we haven't seen that hopefully this 25th anniversary stuff will come out now.
Yeah, that's it. If we could uncover something new for the report, it could be damning, but that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Good work.
I think David Campbell, you joined in late. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Thank you both and all. Good discussion and commentary. Quick question and follow up to Susan, and then one other observation and question. Regarding Sandra Hicks, I've noticed the 9/11 website Boston is not easy to navigate to. Could you remind me the URL, or I think the suggestion in the past was email you and you would send it out, something along those lines?
Yeah, it's boston911truth.org. And just getting an invite, sueserpa@gmail.com. But yeah, if you just email us, we'll get you hooked up.
I can get your email out because I see you're driving, so I'm not going to ask you to type something in the chat, but I can get Susan your email address.
Yep.
Great.
Very good. Thank you. I've pulled over. I'm safely parked, but
okay.
I'll try to get it. And if we're still on, I'll get it in the chat. But
Perfect.
The other observation and question was several years ago, just a year or two after the 9/11 museum opened there at or adjacent to Ground Zero, I noticed in the lobby In fact, I think you can even see it from outside. There was a large vertical steel column. There was earlier conversation this evening on thermate, and cutting charges.
Mm-hmm.
And it was as if the evidence was right there in plain sight to show you how the cut was done. And I'm wondering if that's still there, if anyone else has seen that.
It's a very famous picture with the firefighter, but from everything Dave Cole researching it and everyone, it can't be ruled out that couldn't have been a lance cut after the fact, because the slag is actually going into the column as opposed to going out.
Yeah. So in the dismantling process, they may have done that.
Yep.
Barbara Honegger has done a step-by-step of the 9/11 museum as well. So that's something to look at.
More to the point on that specific 45-degree cut, it was proven by a debunker that was done after cleanup operations, not before.
Yeah,
good to know.
Hang on, buy me a little bit more time. There we go. All right, you bought me enough time. Here we go. You did my brain there. It's this picture. Well, not that. Hang on, it's getting there.
Oh no, right there. It's up there. Yeah.
So it's that picture on the far left. But what they found out where this piece is, and
that's the one.
And you can see it's a picture from early on in the demolition phase, and it's the same location, and it's during the cleanup process.
Hey, Gene, what about that photo that you just shared with Kevin Veerstraten? And I just pointed out, I was like, look at that
another
beam.
Good one. Okay, hang on. You brought up another good point. This is really interesting. A gentleman had put hey, forgive me. I know everyone's kind of pooping out here. This is a great thing. Somebody had said, hey, can anybody identify this firefighter in this picture? And everyone was so focused on trying to identify this firefighter that they missed the bigger clue that was in the foreground. Susie was like, hey, I'm on that, and I'm buying enough time to get down here. Here it is. They're like, hey, look at this guy in the background. Well, everyone looking past this enormous steel beam or column in the front that has this, curled edge like paper and paper thin edge. This thing was melted. There's definitely evidence of eutectic damage on this beam. So I've reached out to the guy, Charles Bornhoft, and been in communication with him. And he said he has it in high quality tape video format. And I'm working with him on getting the digital copy. And he said he'd be glad to give me a copy. So
beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Susie, for bringing that up. I think I got everybody in the room. Sandra, anything for the group?
Just a couple of things. I had a chance to check. Tyler Oliveira is not British or Australian. I don't know why I thought so. He is American, so I have him on the list. Might be worth looking at. In terms of, funny people, Gene and I secured tickets to go see Sammy Obeid on July 21st when he'll be in Pittsburgh, and looking forward to that. He's been extremely outspoken about everything going on in the Epstein files. He nods to 9/11 more than once, and as you guys probably know, he's Kamal Obeid's son, which took me quite a while to clue into. So I don't know, maybe we'll make an attempt to try to meet him or something after the show, or
I got his VIP ticket, so yeah.
You did?
Well, do and mention that I asked his father to talk to him.
Nice.
Okay.
He's hilarious.
Yes, he is.
He's hilarious. He's great. I mean, he really has. He's been doing it for a long time. He's not new on the scene either. So yeah, he's very quick on his feet.
Does he have a website?
Well, yeah, here, I'll do that for you guys real quick. This is what he looks like. This is at the Improv in, whoops, what happened there? I clicked on. So this is Sammy Obeid. This is Kamal Obeid's son. He's coming to Pittsburgh. Got my tickets. But if you want to buy tickets from him and see if he's coming in your area, if you go to Sammy K.O., I think maybe it stands for Sammy Kamal Obeid. Maybe his middle name's Kamal. I don't know. But SammyKO.com. And he has a list of all his shows. You could scroll down and see if he's coming through your city. So support him. He is a really funny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one last note, we are changing time next weekend. The Europeans are not changing time until 3 weeks later. So for the next 3 Sundays, and this right now only affects Magnus, but there's a couple of other Europeans on the call sometimes. So I will include that in the email reminder, but you will be coming on an hour earlier, I believe.
All right.
So there'll be, if you have a 6-hour time difference right now, it'll be 5 for the next 3 weeks. So just a heads up.
Excellent. And my 30-second takeaway, somebody brought up the Bill of Rights, and I lean
the Constitution.
I lean to A. So I just wanted to share a short video clip from Chappelle on why the reason why the First Amendment's first. Here we go.
The First Amendment is first for a reason. The Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out.
It's cool to see John Stewart.
First Amendment is
too. So anyways, thank you guys for being here. Have a good evening, great week, and let's talk next time.
Have a good week.
Thanks, everybody.
Spring forward in a week.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.